Testing 1, 2, 3, and we're live, I think. Pretty sure we're live right now. Either way, this is Drew from Unorganized Play, aka Serial Killer. Thanks for coming in, guys. Today we're doing something a little bit different. There's a couple of people in the group that are actually painters, and I wanted to sort of highlight that. This is my painting board challenge, so if you follow me on any social media, TikTok, anything like that, you realize that I am very big into painting miniatures and stuff like that. So I figured, why not get two birds with one stone, where I get streaming in done since I didn't get an opportunity yesterday to do my usual Tuesday and Thursday. So I get some painting done today, maybe some Rogue Trader tomorrow. Who knows at this point right now? Let me just make sure everything's up and running, because sometimes it not be like that at all. And alright, let's see, face cam. Where's the webcam? There we go. Here's the webcam of Doom. So today I'm going to be painting up some Shatterpoint miniatures. It's essentially a 2-pack of a squad of like 2 clone Commandos. Yes, I primed them black. Yes, I gave them a dry brush. Now you may think, like, how hard can white be to paint? And you know, how much more do I have to actually paint on these miniatures? But I want to try to get them as complete as possible tonight. One, because that's on my challenge board for myself. If you don't know what a challenge board is, or like a motivational board, it's pretty much something that you write stuff onto that you want to accomplish in the week. And it's actually been a while since I've picked up the paintbrush, so I wanted to, get back to that, get some stuff done, especially right before the new year. And so that's what we're gonna do now. I'm just doing some final checks because I tend to kind of mess things up sometimes. Let's see here. Boop, boop, boop. I'll make sure that's not echoing. Alright, cool. And why can't I see my chat? Chat, ¿dónde estás? Alright, we'll figure it out in a second. But, either way, my chat's being like super wonky. Does not want to work. We'll figure it out when we get there. Either way. So, what I tend to do is there we go. I start off with the black primer, obviously. If you know nothing about painting, you should wash your miniatures. Maybe it's just an old habit. Maybe you don't need to do it anymore. After you clip them and put them together, then you apply primer. The primer is going to make the paint hang onto it a little bit tighter, and it's going to ensure that it's consistent. As you can see, it doesn't have to be completely in every little nook and cranny, but regardless. Then I dry brushed white onto the miniature. Most parts of the miniature, even some of the parts of the miniature which I intended to keep, where I want to paint black. And that's where we are right now. So that's up to speed. So we have our handy dandy wet palette. I encourage anyone who's ever painted or is thinking about painting to get a wet palette. One, it keeps your paint on, here it is. It's like I'm not going to call it wax paper, but it definitely has those sort of properties on there. And keeps your paints nice and wet, so you can go back and open up the lid and just come back to painting. Like I said, if you don't know too much about painting, I would invest in this like less than $10 things. It comes with a bunch of sheets. The spongy part you may need to replace, but it comes with a bunch of disposable sheets. Once it fills up or dries up, toss it out and start put a new one in, and you're good to go. They do sell in bigger sizes, but I like that this is pretty small and travel sized, and you can kind of, if you have a busy desk, as I tend to have a busy desk, you need space. You want economy of space. That's what I tend to do. So, of course, I'm not a professional, so I don't have all the colors I need right now, or that I think I need. So let's take 2 seconds to see what kind of colors we might need. So we got a black. We got some of our Black Templar. Actually, this is the better cam for that. Shake it up. Force habit also. I'm not even sure if you still need to shake up all your paints, but I do it anyway, because you need to be able to, sometimes the paint settles, the paint's not going to come out very consistent, and that's going to breed a whole bunch of different issues that you don't want to deal with right off the bat. Let's get our paintbrushes. So we're going to need, let's get a super thin one, and I have a vast array of paintbrushes that I've either given away, I've broken down, or a little bit too hard to use. So this one looks pretty good. Of course I have my cup of water right next to my drinking cup of coffee, because of course they go hand in hand in that. endeavor. I'm going to take a little bit of, I'm going to go here, I'm going to show you a little bit of the magic. I'm going to use a little bit of my Black Templar. Put a little bit on the wet palette. I don't want to use too much. Well, even though I know there's going to be a lot of predominantly dark parts on this Clone Commander, only because, or Clone Commando. What I tend to do, I know a lot of people like paint their fingernails because it like flows off a little bit easier, but I tend to just use my skin to test how much actual paint is on that brush and then make it into a point. And alright, so from here, I'm definitely know that the weapon, get this out of the way a bit, but I want to keep the weapon black, so we're going to hit up the weapon off the bat. Now with contrast paints in general, you try to get everything in 1 or 2 coats really quick, because if you try to go for that second application, it's actually going to mess up some of the properties of it. And I think this is just purely with GW's or Games Workshop's contrast paint and compared to others, you know, non-trademarked speed paints from Vallejo, I think it's called, or army paint shades. Let's get that. I hope I'm not coming in like too loud because I am going to get pretty close to the mic as I paint this up. Now most of the stormtroopers and / the Clone Commandos, in between their armor sets, they have like a black undermesh or body mesh. So we're going to try to hit up those areas really quickly here. And don't worry, no, it doesn't need to be perfect. You can always go back, and I intend to kind of go back anyway on some of the white. So don't worry, of course. You can also use your finger to kind of rub off a little bit of it. Thing with painting is it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's something that you learn as you kind of grow more into being comfortable with your painting style and how you paint. Yes, of course, you want to be as close to perfect as possible. Try not to hold yourself of that standard where you need to be, oh, I need this look to look like the box art, or I need to look this exactly like how it is. Part of the fun, and you know, rest in peace, Bob Ross. Verbatim, I'm just saying, part of the fun of painting is the adventure, is how you get there on some of the stuff. So don't worry about making too many mistakes. I don't know if you want to use that as a life quote or not, but you're going to fix it. It's going to work out. It's going to be okay. Just have to have an open mind and a willingness to keep trying, and then you'll be like halfway there. That's the secret to life. You guys can like tune out now. I've given you enough wisdom for the day. Hopefully. Hopefully not. Hopefully there's a lot more. I do have some reference pictures. I'm just kind of loosely looking at them since, you know, obviously there's been a lot of iterations of the Star Wars universe and what they might look like. So I am going to go with a little bit with the white / armor, but some of the insignia I'm going to change, or like the squad designations, I'm definitely going to change once I get a little bit deeper into it. Like I said, I'm not trying to go too crazy with, is it going to be 100% exact, but I do want to block off certain areas. Namely, the mesh, or the under armor, the under mesh that goes onto the miniature. And you'll find out if the paint is thin enough, or if it's being cooperating enough, that it's going to flow exactly where you need it to. So it already looks like 90% of a stormtrooper, right? But my goal with the cool thing about these Shatterpoint miniatures is that they're actually bigger than most scale miniatures. So for example, I'm going to show a historical miniature that I'm not really painting historical next to it. There's a huge difference in scale. I believe the Star Wars miniatures were for Shatterpoint, because they do have other games on Star Wars. They think they're 35, or about the same size as Marvel Crisis Protocol, which they tend to be bigger, which I love, since you don't have to be a great painter to make them look good. And they're distinctive enough and big enough for even a casual person to just pick them up and paint them up a bit. Alright, well that's drying up a bit. Let's try the other Commando, because I have to look to see if that backpack is actually going to be white or it's going to be more of a black color. Again, let's shake up that contrast. And nice little glop onto my wet palette. Actually, well, it didn't even dry up. I just actually used it. Like that part right there that I was using earlier, well, in the week is still wet. And I was using that for the dry brush of the armor. Let's go for the visor. Is this going to be thin enough? It's close enough. I said any mistakes you kind of make along the way, you're going to be able to fix. So never worry about that. Don't get frustrated. I think part of the experience of painting is the journey, how you get there. Nothing needs to be perfect. Nothing needs to be, 100%. Oh my god, this is box art type. And like I said, or kind of like I interrupted myself on that. One of the things that I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to paint and them like if they've been out in battle for a while. And I do have some Jedi that I want to make them look like a little bit more pristine. Like, like the clone troopers are doing all this work and the Jedi are kind of just coming in to save the day and getting all the credit and stuff. So that's just like my little headcanon stuff I want to do when I'm painting up these guys. Something you also don't have to like worry your head about is that there are going to be times where you're going to worry that some detail, like you're gonna go really crazy thinking like, oh my god, everyone's gonna see this little detail, and then you're gonna realize that not a lot of people realized or saw the same thing that you're looking at. So try not to go too crazy. As you can see, I kind of have like this, well, I guess now you can see better. I have like this sort of method where I kind of brace my pinky and my hand in a triangle for type faction to gain stability on some of the miniatures. I think this is all Under Armour. Like I said, even if I mess up, I still feel like I'm gonna have the desired result here. Kind of covering that Under Armour. You look really quickly. I'm pretty sure the backpack's supposed to be white. At least for the most part. Yeah, okay, it's supposed to be white. There are some dark spots. Okay, good. I got a picture. Oh, that's like worse. I want to see that. Alright, so I got a good reference picture here on the Wikipedia, or the Wikipedia as they call it. I'm also trying to probably gonna give the white armor a very light shade or dark wash in order to like bring out a little bit more details. Now, like I said, I could have, a lot of people would be like, why wouldn't you just paint everything or spray paint it white? It saves you a lot of work. But I kind of, when you tend to go more white when you want to go lighter colors, I want to kind of build up like that kind of dirty-ish tint to it. So I kind of want that black. Because I don't think there's necessarily a wrong or right way to paint. You make your own level how you want them to. So I actually do have some finished clone troopers that I had before. So essentially that's what I want to go for. So this is one that I painted earlier. Well, not earlier, but I painted it a couple months ago. So I'm going kind of for that dingy, like burnt up armor like they've been fighting and stuff like that. So I'll do the same. I'm going to bring them up a bit in color and then like tone them down. Now I'm sure there are a billion ways to do that, probably easier than what I'm doing right now, but like I said, part of it's the adventure. I find painting really calming to me. And I decided why not. That is the path I'm gonna take on it. Regardless if it's the right or wrong path. Okay, do I have most of the black Under Armour done? I think so. I could be using more precise brushes also, if I'm critiquing my own art method here. What but everyone's gonna have their own kind of method on that, or what they want to do. Method and technique, rather. Yep, so this under mesh up to the neck is going to be all black. Now that we're seeing more of that. Sometimes, like I said, I generally tend not to paint very Canon sort of paint schemes, but I guess Star Wars is a very distinctive look. The Marvel stuff is, I kind of don't have to worry too much. When you have something that you can just look at and be like, okay, you've got some sort of reference material, you can kind of just zone out and be like, all right, this is already picked for me. I don't have to go crazy if these colors match or if these colors look good, because it's just another layer of worrying when you think about it. So it's good to kind of like turn your brain off a bit. All right, that looks kind of decent. The rib cage is okay. So it's good for that sort of wash. Let's see if we can get some. I can even twist my carousel because it's actually heavily burdened by a bunch of stuff. Is this what I need? This is not it. Do not need Agrax or shade. I have so many paints. I have bins of just more paints underneath my desk. Such is the life of, there we go. Got it in the first go. Such is the life of a painter and a gamer. This is organized chaos, as I tell everybody. So get a little bit of Nolan oil. So if you don't know what this is, it's a shade. And okay, I thought it opened up, it was going to burst everywhere because I'm wearing a light colored shirt. Give it a good little shake. I'm going to essentially douse the entire miniature in this. Sorry, put a bigger brush. But you kind of want organized chaos. You don't want to just throw it all over the miniature and not have control over where your brush goes. And even if you make that mistake, remember you've got other brushes to kind of like sweep off or pull off some of that excess paint. So this is more of a wash here. And with this wash, I'm going to run it across the miniature and hope that it doesn't pool. Let's close that because it's the same bottle that I spilled over half my table. So you can kind of see some sort of vague armor plates on there, and I'm gonna now wash the entire miniature in black, essentially, so I can pick out details when I come back with the white. And as always, you're kind of just, even if certain parts look like a little heavy, you're gonna try to work them away or towards other parts, so that way it doesn't just pool off into one area and just becomes really weird. Yes, again, I'm sure that a lot of people would be like, not take the dark primer into a when you want to paint a white, which would be like the last thing in your mind. But I kind of like this style a little bit better. I like that grittier type of style. Even though they're not, you know, they're fictional characters and stuff like that. That's just my personal preference, to be fair. See, and if anything looks like it's pooling up, just run your brush so you push the excess wash to other parts. Don't worry about it being indiscriminate, only because I don't have to worry about other colors just yet. So when I have other colors, I'm obviously gonna, like when I have squad markings and stuff like that, I'm gonna be a little bit more careful. But right now, since we're in the base, kind of like the base coating stage of the miniature, I'm not too worried about indiscriminately, and it's kind of very slight compared to the two. Like I said, it's the armor looks a little bit dirtier, but you can kind of tell, hopefully, that there are a little bit more details. Especially once it dries, it's going to be like a little bit more prominent. So I ran out of that, so I'm going to put a little bit more. Even though I'm not a big fan of Games Workshop's pricing model, I do like some of their contrasts and shades are amazing. I really like the metallics, so I'll have to admit that. So you'll see me use a lot of that. I use a lot of AK painter. Really starting to like that mark also. That's actually who makes this wet palette. Once I saw the racks go up in my local hobby store, I was like, let me try the paints out and actually enjoy their paints. Because not all paints were created equal. Some paints actually flow a lot easier, or a lot easier to use. They don't dry up as fast. Or they just have a different, more range of colors. That's also a very big thing. Because, you know, most paint companies can't afford to put out like every little color or variation of color, but you have your favorites. So hopefully by the time I finish inking up this model, that one will be at least a little bit closer to where it needs to be, so I can start painting on like the actual white and start going over it in like very soft layers. Like I said, I don't want to drown the miniature too much. Although it probably looks that way. People are probably going like, what are you doing? You literally dirty their armor just to clean it back up. But I wanted to catch that ink's made there, the shade, the ink is made more to pick out like little details that you may have not caught initially. Of course, Star Wars mug, because thank you to a friend of mine. We get a Secret Santa, hit it on the spot. Alright. So looking good, looking pretty dry there. Don't worry, the ground's going to be a different color. We'll get there. I just want to make sure that looks dry enough before I start applying paint. Otherwise, the paint will just slide off or mix with the shade, and then that'll be like a whole different problem as I drop a stormtrooper on the ground somewhere. Okay, never mind, I see him. So even though I fixed these guys to magnets. So painting is very calming to me. I always found it like kind of my place where I can go to kind of relax, even though sometimes, yes, it can get frustrating. Okay, so I have my white gray. Do I have another white color do I need to use? Off-white maybe. And I don't want to hit quite ivory. So you really shouldn't just go straight for the white, because if you put straight white on the miniature, it's going to look very odd. And also, like I said, I'm going more for like a battle tour, and they've kind of been in a long fight type of deal, so I'm not trying to get them like to that color yet. So I'm gonna go hit it with the white gray from AK, the AK line, and I'm just gonna paint some very thin layers and go from there. Put a little daisy dollop there. We can use this one. Always mix in a little bit of water. But it depends. Like I said, some paints don't require as much water. Or sometimes people use medium to thin it out a bit and to get it more consistent. Using my hand as a mini canvas just so I can see how I need to control the brush. Alright, let's do it. So, of course you want to hit up the high areas, or the areas where there's the most concentration of stuff. So for example, I'm not going to go for all these little details off the bat. I'm going to try to go for the bigger plates and then work myself down as I get a little bit more careful. I need to be a little bit higher up here. Let's move this, hopefully. we go. I said, don't worry about it being perfect. It's not about being perfect. I always fell into the trap previously of, oh, I've got a tournament or an event. I've got to do this like super quick. And some stuff came out pretty good under pressure, but sometimes I would see stuff in the light and I would just be like, oh, what was I thinking? Why did I rush this? I should have taken my time with such beautiful miniatures. Or so then, I was kind of like, one of the things I started learning when I was painting more and more was just go at your own pace, make your own pace, just make sure you don't give up. It's very easy to get discouraged when you're painting, and sometimes you do need a mental break. I think the last time I touched a brush was, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago. So I took a little break. That's how it is sometimes. You get burnt out, just like anything. You can over hobby, you can overtrain, you can over gym, you can do over anything, over read, over get think into your own head. But that's alright, as long as you don't give up. And I knew I wasn't going to give up, I knew I was going to come back. I just knew that I had a lot of stuff going on, so. See, as I'm slowly starting to pick out the plates. I said, this is my first painting stream, so I'm kind of, it's actually something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I just have not had the time, or I'm not going to say inclination to do it, but life catches you up sometimes, and then life gives you the opportunity when you least expect it. So this time, I'm like, screw it. Why not? Why shouldn't I paint? If I'm going to paint, I might as well have some company. Or at the very least, let it be my free therapy session where I just talk. Instead of just getting distracted by not doing anything. Or just watching YouTube or like Netflix or something. So lines are coming pretty good so far. I'm not going to go back to them just yet. I'm going to wait till they kind of fully dry out before I start hitting them up again. Like I said, I'm trying to go more for the bigger plates and details before I dig into like the really small details of the miniature. Some people would just do like a plate and just focus on that plate, take a break, and then come back, but this is how I wanted to tackle this miniature. They say not go into small detail, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I have to figure out the cameras better too. Hopefully you guys can see that. So you're really not in a race. I know we've all kind of been in that rush to, oh, I want to get stuff done, I want to game at my club, or I want to show my friends this new miniature, but trust me when I say it's a lot better when you take your time with it. Even if it doesn't look great, at least you're, in a way, unless you're just completely not a painter, and even then, I've had people that are not painters and then really enjoy the process of painting, which is amazing when they realize, like, oh, I didn't hate painting, I just didn't paint with the right group. Or some people are really good painting in groups, just like relaxing, talking to a group, and they get really motivated to paint. I'm mainly a solo painter, but because I feel I go slower a little bit in a group because I'm teaching people how to paint, or they're asking me a lot of painting questions. Even though I'm not like great or anything, I just paint a lot. So what is that? Who makes like trash art but is really prolific? I'm like that, Not quite complete trash, but just enough. I get stuff tabletop standard. Maybe tabletop plus. But I'm not a pro painter. Just an average gamer. That's fine because I push myself as much as I can, and then slowly but surely, the results kind of change. It's the journey, not the destination, right? I feel like that's all painting, or maybe that's just a good life quote in general. Don't get caught up where you want to go. Just focus on the next step. No matter how small of a progress it looks like you're making, every forward step is a step in the right direction. And if you fall down and you mess up and you re gotta do all those steps, then that's good. The second time around, at least you'll be a little bit wiser. I feel, you know. So white is a very arduous process, but we'll get through it. Sorry, I'm still getting used to like talking and slash narrating as I'm painting or trying to paint. You kind of get used to it. Well, slowly you get used to it, I guess. Right, here we go. So I'm sure, like right now, I'm gonna miss a bunch of spots, but that's fine because when I go back, I'll be able to like easily spot like the spots that I missed. So let's go. It's alright if it looks a little heavy because you can always spread that paint out. Make it a little bit more even, or you know get it on the next layer out. There we go. Slowly but surely, it's starting to look like a miniature. This is easily how to spend a lifetime of patience. I always get that a lot. A lot of people think like, oh, how can you be so patient to do like all of this stuff? Like I don't have the patience. I was like, oh, I'm sure a lot of people have the patience. Maybe not so much the inclination to do it, but um, once they actually sit down and start painting, they get really into it. They're really proud of what they do. That's great. I feel painting for me is extremely therapeutic. It's something that brings me or relieves a ton of my stress. Like almost anything artistic, painting, doing something in charcoal, um, reading. I don't know. I guess reading could be artistic, but more leisure and stuff like that. Not. I can't read anything like a technical manual, rule book. I absolutely suck. Not good at those. Um, but you know, anything else, not really technical. I love reading. I guess I always loved reading as a little kid too. Our cousins kind of encouraged it a lot. They would buy us a lot of books, or read to us, or like get us books too that we would hopefully read on our own, and ask us about the book. Usually, a book something they read, just to see if we were actually reading it or not. So that was kind of great encouragement from my family, my cousins, and stuff like that. Whereas I'm not as methodical as my brother, I am more creative. So this part of it, this hobby part, and that's like part of the hobby. You know, this belongs to a game. Game wise, maybe I'm not the best, but hobby wise, I really enjoy it. I think that's what really sucked me into the hobby in general. Was I looked at all these soldiers and I'm like, oh man, these are so cool. I gotta have these as a little kid. Of course, one, I was way too young to even pick up a paintbrush, or I should say, like nobody taught me. And on top of that, I just didn't have the money, obviously, so I didn't get into gaming in general till way later in life. And I say way later, but it was actually pretty much just high school, where I met some of the fellas that founded this wondrous channel that you see me streaming on. Who would think after all those years we would still be even remotely acquaintances and that we're not at each other's throats every 3 seconds? Right? That is one of the things. One of the things you find in good friends, even though we're all sometimes I feel like we're all extremely different personalities. I actually think it's one of the best and worst things ever because I'm a big fan of seeing perspective, even if sometimes I'm extremely stubborn, or so I'm told. Uh, all of my friends have very different perspectives. And one of the common threads that we have is actually gaming. And we don't even game some of the same games. You know, some are more board gamers, some are more card gamers, and they're really good at it too. I'm looking at you, Vaccaro slash Nirvana Tool. Jared's pretty good. John, who's been on some of the Lorcana side of the conversations, he's really good at card games when he wants to be. Hodge is good in a lot of games too. Our group is made of a bunch of competitive type gamers. Some are better at certain games than others, or analyzing it, playing tournaments and stuff like that. So I've always grew up around a very competitive group. And even though, like I said, even though myself I'm not extremely competitive, I appreciate that perspective of it because even though I go and play things, I have the skill enough to be good at a game. I kind of just play stuff that I want to play, even if it's not really competitive, quote unquote. If I'm familiar with something, then I'm good with something like that. That's not seen as like A tier, then I could pretty much do anything, and that's more than enough satisfaction for me. So at first, I wasn't too into Shatterpoint, I'll admit, and then I saw um, Luminara and Barasofi, and I just like, wow, finally finally put them in a game, which are two of my favorite Jedi ever. And to be honest, I don't even know why. I wish I had like a very, you know, explicit or implicit reason for loving them. I just saw them. I thought they were really cool in the Clone Wars, like cartoon or something. And then when they finally got into a game, even though they're not my favorite Star Wars characters ever, they're definitely my two favorite Jedi ever. A very distinctive look. And Barris was completely right about the Jedi Order in a sense. If I come to my favorite all-time Star Wars characters ever, one I've got tattooed on my arm, and that is Greedo. And everyone's gonna ask him, in your right mind, why would you get Greedo tattooed? Of all the Star Wars characters, and there probably is literally thousands, and that's just when George Lucas was in, control of the property. Why Greedo? And one of the things that I liked about Greedo, his character, even though he's got, I think, even less screen time than Boba Fett. I'm gonna have to look that up at some point because I'm definitely gonna get curious about it. Was the fact that it was a character that was plagued by bad luck, and it's not just because he gets shot. When you start reading his bio and stuff like that, you realize that he just had a whole life of bad luck in all his endeavors. And if you believe in the extended canon, then he was pretty much sent to confront Han Solo just pretty much as a sacrificial lamb by these other bounty hunters he was working with. They just wanted confirmation he was there. They didn't actually think Greedo was going to be successful at all. And yes, I believe before the remakes and the remasters where Han Solo shot first, because he did, and that's fine. Sometimes heroes have to do what they got to do in order to survive. But because it kind of cements who Han Solo is. He's kind of like a scumbag, especially in the beginning, and it's his redemption arc is that he gets to be a better person because he starts believing in the rebellion a bit more and he falls in love with Leia and so on and so forth. So I totally believe that they should have kept it like he did shoot first because obviously his life was on the line, but apparently they thought that wasn't too friendly. So they edited it later on where it was Greedo who shot first and missed, and then Han Solo shot him. Even though Han Solo, was trying to be sneaky. There we go. Slowly but surely, that armor is coming along. So you could kind of tell when you put the two figures together. It's kind of like, I don't want to describe it as warmer, but I feel like that's one of the terms that they use when they talk about all that. Yes, so I can go into like a super deep hole of Star Wars, obviously. Oh, and second, so Greedo, one of my favorite characters. Second, favorite character. It's probably a pair. I don't know. All the bounty hunters from that lineup are pretty iconic. Now, most people would say, like, oh, Boba Fett, which, of course, everyone loves Boba Fett. Until we're not even going to get to the massacre of Disney massacring Boba Fett's name. Because he was fine in Mandalorian and, whatever. And no, it's not the Mandalorian. Pedro Pascal, I love him. Great actor. Um, even Andor Cassian, or Cassian Andor. Diego de Luna kills it in that series. And I'll fight anybody to the grave that says that, like, any other Disney series is as good as Andor. First season Mando, I'll give you that. First, maybe second season of Mandalorian was great, but other than that, I don't know. I thought Andor was such a great show. It was well written. There was actual stakes because none of these characters, one character is going to survive, obviously, because he's in technically a following movie. Because he's in Rogue One, but none of the other characters you see, maybe except Moth Mothma, which you don't even really notice. Not that you don't notice, but you don't care about her story until she starts telling it, and then you slowly but surely, you only see her in episodes 4 to 6, like maybe twice. She gives a little speech. And I think you see her briefly in the Clone Wars movies, like the prequels, or 1 to 3 rather. And you don't really hear too much about her. So seeing her active part as the rebellion slowly starting to come to, fruition is actually pretty cool. And her role in Andor was great because she's the one, well, spoilers and not spoilers. If you haven't seen any Star Wars, whatever, then you're probably on the wrong channel and you've clicked here by accident. Or you're just extremely curious. One of those two things. Her role was great, but now I've got to really think on that second character. I mean, the Stormtroopers are iconics, but they're not like named characters for the most part. I was a big fan of Forlom and Zuckuss. Those are from the Bounty Hunter lineup. And one of the reasons why was because I found their characters really interesting. One is a robot, so of course he's ruled by hard calculations and, this and this and that. And the other, Zuckuss, is kind of like this insectoid guy who's got like a breathing problem. I think he's got asthma or something like that. I oversimplified it. He just needs a breathing apparatus because he can't breathe normal air, I believe. Like I said, in case they may have changed some of the canon. And they're technically the robot's following Zuckuss around because the robot doesn't understand how intuition works. Because of course, how would a robot, quantify intuition? Intuition is not necessarily something that is mathematical at all. It's more like your feeling, your gut feeling. And so the robot kind of goes nuts thinking like, how can you calculate things on gut feelings and not cold hard numbers or facts? So they have this whole sort of weird relationship. And I think at some point, the robot, Forlom, is secretly just plotting to kill Zuckuss once he figures out what's the secret behind his, like, crazy good intuition. So it's both hilarious and kind of messed up at the same time. That sort of dynamic I like. Because, yeah, what is the fine line? As much as you can think rationally about something, there are times you get a weird feeling, and then you can't really quantify that. You can't just tell somebody, oh yeah, I got a weird feeling that this should or shouldn't happen. Maybe we should or shouldn't do this. Trust me, because I've gone through a lot of that. Where you think, like, I know what logically is supposed to happen, but I also maybe illogically believe that my intuition or good fortune or whatever trumps that. No one believes you. And then it happens. And they're like, oh, you were lucky. It's like, yeah, maybe it was luck. But also, I think one thing about intuition that a lot of people tend to forget is that or what I've been told that kind of makes a lot of sense is that intuition is all about pattern recognition, and essentially, um, when your intuition is essentially the cheat code of your mind correlating everything that you know and compiling it before you even realizing what's happening. So it's your mind kind of like saying, well, if this and this happens, this should logically happen, and this is why you have this gut feeling. And maybe that's why that's like sort of the thing behind intuition, where you feel something because you've gone through certain circumstances and you're just reliving it or seeing it over again, or you saw it in some other place, and now everything makes sense to you in one moment of clarity. So I kind of believe that too, where your mind's kind of like, hey, this has happened, or you've seen this happen, or you remember something where this is a possibility of something happening, but you can't quite explain it, so you start going like, oh, I just feel that this would be X or Y, which makes sense, also makes sense. And that's coming from someone who is, someone that's really into their intuition and their gut feeling. So here we go. Slowly but surely, that white's coming through a little bit more and more. I'm noticing some parts, yes, they're not quite where I want them to be just yet. It may take a couple of, not only like white, yellow, red, those type of colors do require quite a few coats in order to kind of really stick where you want them to be, or how you want them to be, rather. So be prepared. Well, I kind of like that black midriff. Maybe I'll keep that black, even though like a lot of the artwork has it as, also white. I'll hold back on that for a sec. I think it's pretty rocking that the black midriff kind of breaks up that silhouette of the model. As we slowly get there. Worst comes to worst, I could just jump to the other guy, but I think the paint, I'm not encountering a lot of areas where I need to let the paint kind of dry. So there's that. So I kind of gave like a philosophy and like lesson on top of like the characters, why I like them and stuff like that. Those are my two favorites, or three, are kind of like very at the top. Greedo's like number one, but I think that pair makes a pretty good number two. And I say number two as one person because they're always together. Although Ponda Baba and Dr. Escoban, I think his name is pronounced, that pair is pretty hilarious. And the fact that you see them in Rogue One right before Jeddah gets, nuked, essentially, I thought was hilarious. The little cameo. Again, not having a ton of screen time, but their impact on the movies makes sense. Because you figure there's this big guy, you have Ponda Baba, which is a kind of like a thug, confront Luke, and it shows you right off the bat, it conveys that Ben Kenobi, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, is kind of a badass, even though he's super old, because he used to be a Jedi. But, you learn this in the first, I should say episode 4. You think it's like some old defenseless guy, and he's actually super quick, and he tried to de-escalate the problem, but he saw once weapon was drawn, he had to get to business. So he got him handled, and then promptly took off his hand. Slowly but surely. And like the more you look at it, the more like, oh, I have such a long way to go. But I think in the end, the kind of what you go through is, I'm not looking at how much I have left to do. I'm looking at like the right now. What's getting done now and what I can accomplish right now. How close I can get to my goal. Because like I said, it's more about the journey than anything else. I'm not too concerned Things do not have to be perfect. Painting for me is part of the fun, even if I get sometimes extremely frustrated. Like I said, I think all artists or creative people have like that sort of block in their head where everything that they make is not quite enough. It doesn't matter how good people say or think it is. In the back of their head, they're always like, "Oh, I could have done better. I could have used this color." There's always gonna be someone better, so don't even fret it. Take that as you will. There's always gonna be someone that's gonna be just slightly better. But so you just have to push yourself to the best of your results. And if you don't think you're better yet, then push yourself more. Use it as a challenge to spur you forward. Then use it as a limitation. So that kind of will just slow you down. Slow down your thinking. You gotta be positive. Come on, we're going to a new year. Make a promise to yourself. Make a promise that you are going to push yourself to do something different, or to be a little bit more, not give up on yourself, right? Yeah, and you see me moving the miniature in various directions. It's going to be easier, and that's what I love these dowels, because they are just a piece of like these are magnetic. These are made specifically. This I just put on top of a bottle, like a paint bottle I had. But it allows you to kind of move your miniature without touching it too much, even though physically I'm touching it now. Because holding it from just the base, you could do that also, but having a handle to get a little bit more range is actually pretty nifty at times when you're painting up certain areas. There will be times, for sure. And you really can't tell, but my hand is just starting to accrue white and black paint. There's definitely going to be a lot of times where you like sit back and appreciate or see where you're missing. So that's why I do a lot of, you'll see me like just twisting idly, and that's more because I'm trying to see both what it looks like on the camera, but also because you start noticing where parts need to be touched up a little bit more, or they need to just, I've completely forgot to hit them. So fear not on that. There we go. Alright, let's, as I get closer and closer, I start picking out a little bit more of the details on that too. So it looks a little bit more, I'm not going to say coherent, but just so you can appreciate some more of the grooves and stuff like that. Like I said, it's not going to be perfect the first couple of times you paint, or if you paint at all. Don't hold yourself to that kind of pressure. Paint because you enjoy to paint. Although, like I said, some people actually work better. I've known a lot of people who've worked under a deadline who've never really painted, and it looked phenomenal, especially for the first time. I said, between myself and Jared, we tend to be the group painters, although I feel Jared's way superior in painting than I am. He just doesn't do it as often, or he does it, it feels like a chore to him when he does it. But he's also the group's painter when people want to pay him to paint stuff, and he's phenomenal. So if you ever need to hire Jared, unofficial, advertising for our boy Jared / Rogue Panda. He's always looking for commission work. He's also a real painter / digital artist. So if you need stuff done from him, feel free to contact him. I think his socials are in the bio. Or just contact the main group and we'll set you up. work through it. Now let's let that guy dry for a bit, and now we're gonna go for the second guy. The second guy's gonna be a little bit rough, only because he does not have such a wide open body gesture. Not only is he like crouching, but he's not like hidden like this. He's got a whole. This first guy's got like a whole open pose to him. This guy's all crouched down. So maybe it'll be better, or maybe it will be worse. Because like I said, you're not going to see a lot of details. Obviously his whole chest area is kind of like blocked off. You're not going to see a lot of that. So we're just going to hit it with some broad strokes here. It needs to be quite perfect because we're 100% going to have to go back anyway. But I'm just going to block out some of these large armor plates. I was going to paint up something a little bit different, but I didn't have enough time to prime this afternoon. So I said, here's my two characters that I'm working on right now, two figures. Let me just actually finish them off, put a little bit of time in, stream for a bit, and kind of like go from there. So we're slowly coming up on our first hour, ever so slowly with the white. Trust me, it gets more exciting, although I'm not sure if it's going to get more exciting in the next half hour. That I can't promise you, but as we get closer and I start adding battle damage and start adding squad insignias, that's all going to make sense. I promise. There'll be a lot more form to the miniatures. There we go. Let's add that little side detail there. So we slowly keep detaching from the base. That's okay. Just gotta adapt. Stuff happens. It's one of the things you gotta slowly start moving to. I said nothing's perfect. Mistakes happen, especially with white. Don't be afraid that you're gonna mess up and you can't go back. That's the beauty about paint. Yes, it may take a little bit, but unless you dump the whole pot onto your miniature, you're gonna be fine. One sec. Let's see, here we go. Like I said, maybe next time well, if I finish these tonight. I don't know if I'll finish these tonight, but try to paint something a little bit more exciting. Well, like I said, it's more self-completion stuff rather than stuff that need painting. Because, I mean, it's pretty much all the same. Whether you paint up white Stormtrooper armor or I'm painting up... Oh, I fell off the thing. This dowel's not as strong as the other one, although technically it's not a dowel. I do have another one. Maybe I'll try the other one. Let's try this one. Here we go. I don't know if this one's gonna hold them better or worse. So this is, I don't even know where I got this from, but it's super useful. I can't stand it up, but that's fine. You also may notice I have like a little spongy thing here, one for support, but also when you want to dry off your brushes from being too wet, you just leave them on that. And I got that from a pack of something that I bought. Most miniatures come packed with these little foam things anyway, one form or another. So I know that there's like a ton of people that use like a different brush for every little thing. I learned, and maybe that's also part of one of the things holding me back, is that I tend to use a handful of brushes instead of like 10 or 20 just for one project. It really just depends on like how much surface area I have, what I want to do, what I want to accomplish, the kind of effect that I want to go with. Rather than, oh, I need this specific brush for X or Y. I also don't use super expensive brushes. I think I bought like one or two expensive brushes, and by expensive I mean like $20 instead of like $20 for a pack of like 10. $20 for one brush, and I'm too scared to use it. So I love coffee, and no, it's not gonna keep me up late at night because it is pretty late here. Uh, if anything, it's probably gonna make me sleepy since it's a comfort thing. Love me coffee. Everyone always asks that. They're asking, like, how can you drink coffee so late? Is it gonna keep you up? And I go, no, 100%. It's just gonna put me to sleep. I should say it's not gonna affect my energy level. I'll go to sleep at the time I regularly go to sleep, regardless if I have coffee or not. But I wanted something calming, so coffee instead of tea. For whatever reason, it works. I think it's also because it feels more like a dessert rather than tea, which is usually not something I think of as sweet before I go to bed. And it's not even like I put that much sugar, it's just where I'm at, more or less. Alright, this one, you only see it's getting done faster because there's like half as much, I can't even say volume of the miniature because they're technically both the same height. This one's just crouched down, but he just looks like he's zooming compared to the other guy. It also maybe because I hit into a sort of groove, which also happens when you paint. You kind of start picking up a little speed on the second miniature that you're painting. If it's the exact same thing, like I said, there's not going to be a ton of variation, especially off the bat, but there we go. Instead, once we get closer to like the white that we want to get them at, then we could experiment with some colors. Obviously, we're going to paint like the basing's going to be different. Some of the damage. I now have to think of like what kind of insignia I want to put on them too. Unless I want to leave them predominantly white. Cannon wise, I believe there's some room that I could play with the insignia, like some sort of striking colors, maybe a little bit of red. Red will really stick out against the white armor. I just have to think if any of the released troopers now have red on their armor. I don't think they do, because I think they have the ARF troopers, the scout troopers, which are in yellow, and one other set of stormtroopers are out there. The 501st obviously are in blue. Maybe they do have red already. I have to think on that. But I think the Commandos, I know, originally formed from a game or a book, and you don't see them at all in the movies. Unless it was a Clone Wars animated movie, if I'm correct. See, slowly but surely we get it. Sometimes it's going to take layers, like an onion. There are layers to it. I've been told I'm an emotional onion, or that I'm very surprising facts about me. I took it as a compliment. stand still the same way. Like you can't really set my web palette 'cause it's a bit closer to me, just so I have a better triangle pose when I sit at my computer desk, since this is at my computer desk where I tend to do most of my work. One, because I know some people have like different workstations between their painting and their computer and stuff like that. But I find it just more useful to be very close to, like, oh, I need a break, mental break. Let me look at some YouTube video for 5 minutes. Let me listen to some music, or let me just reference some material and stuff like that. Which is why I really like my computer. Or like painting in front of my computer. Some people find it too much of a distraction, and I can totally get that because it's very easy to just turn on Netflix and just like zone out, or like listen to music or like play a video game when you're already at your computer. I feel that's one of the I think in general, if you're inclined to do something, you're going to try to do it, because if I wanted to watch something or dedicate time to do something, that's what I'm going to do regardless. I don't need an excuse to be like, oh no, I didn't do X or Y because I got distracted at the last minute. I was like, no, I knew you set out to do your goals, and try not to get distracted. Yeah, see, this guy looks like he's coming along a lot quicker than the other guy. I said mainly because a lot of the actual details kind of being obscured here by his gun and the way his pose is, but small blessings. It is a pretty cool action-oriented pose, and it makes him different at least. So let's get those big sweeping blocks before we start delving more into the details there. Always remember you get like the flat part of your brush too. So that way you don't have to worry about like messing up your point. But even though I'm not a pro or anything, I do enjoy painting a lot. It's one of the small guilty pleasures. Is enjoying my time painting. Or trying to paint. I can't say I'm like a successful painter or anything, but trying to paint and getting lost in the art. Like I said, even though it's not perfect, it's very refreshing. Getting a little tired of my coffee. Let's get a little bit of water going. Remember to hydrate. And that counts doubly for your brush, unless you want to like destroy your brush when the paint fully dries on it. There are thinners and stuff like that you can use in order to give life back to your brush, but it is a process, so maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to just have a thing about it. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of the cure, so I'm told. So rather than getting to that point, even though I actually do have paint restorers, just in case my favorite brush is looking like it's going the way of the dinosaur. I think the bottoms of their feet are supposed to be black. Just in case. I mean, either way, I'll probably end up coating their feet in like dust and dirt. There we go. I said it seems like he's faster, but that's only because His pose is saving me from essentially doing the whole midriff. At least the camera and the lighting is pretty good. Unlike when I was doing the cards, I guess maybe because the text kept like poking stuff out. This is getting a little bit more detail. Pretty happy about that in the camera placement, so pat myself on the back for that. Hopefully it is coming through for you guys and I'm not like all you're seeing is my hand over something and you're actually catching some of the detail. So tomorrow, you know, as long as things go super sideways, I will also stream. It's undecided if I want to paint. Don't worry, it may not be these miniatures, it may be something more exciting. Or if I'm gonna stream some more Rogue Trader. I have yet to be determined on that. I guess it depends more on my mood. Today I just was in a super I want to paint mood, which is why I kind of overtook like the usual Rogue Trader that I end up playing on stream. And I okayed it with the guys and they thought it was a good idea. You know, kind of, like I said, I've been talking about adding a little bit of variety to the channel. And I've also wanted to do a paint stream forever, so it just worked out for everyone's schedule. So this is a collaborative effort, even though generally you see most of the time you guys see like me or Jared. Everyone's got stuff going on in their life, so everyone kind of guest stars. Or when it's relevant, they kind of like make their way onto the channel. Since we talk about stuff every day and multiple chats. Kind of try to coordinate, which is actually a big effort in our group. A shout out to, again, Bacaro, which is kind of like our team lead. Our respectable team lead. Since he's pretty good at coercing us to do stuff that we generally don't want to do or don't even bother to do. So, appreciate. Like I said, everyone in the crew has like a different sort of aspect about themselves that they're really good at. Macaro is really good at herding cats. And we are a herd of cats. Let's go back to first Commando. I think we're ready to give him a second shot. Let's finish this coffee first of all. Yum, love some coffee. Here we go. Let's move the legs a little bit around because sitting all day does not make for something great. Don't want to catch a cramp. I already sit enough at work. Even when I want to walk around, I feel like I sit too much. See, looks much better than what I originally had it at. I said I like the armor kind of like, I want to say warming up a bit. Not really the quite the right term. I think people associate that. But in painting, you know, having something warm is just, maybe there are warm colors in general, but I feel even going to like this color gives it the miniature a lot more character than I had before. And then yes, of course, I'm doing all this to make their armor look like nice and neat. And one of the steps is actually going to be like ruining the armor. It's going to be like all scratched up and dirty and stuff. And I think that's where I have the most fun. Because I'm doing all this work to make the armor look like, oh, it looks relatively brand new, like not a lot of stuff happened. And then the actual fun comes when I kind of dirty up the armor and make it look like they've been through hell. It's kind of my personal favorite so far of these miniatures. Maybe I'll start like my next painting day, not like tomorrow, but maybe next week or something. I'll continue with Rogue Trader one day and paint another day. Hopefully get a little bit more time. Maybe Monday. I think Monday we don't work, so we'll see how bad the hangover is Monday. I mean, I lie. I don't get hungover, but let's see how tired I am. I guess that's more apropos. Which, amazingly, I'm really lucky that I don't necessarily get hungover because I do tend to drink. But depending on the day, I do get tired just because on my days off, I tend to wake up early anyway, do like a billion errands, go to the gym, you know, get breakfast because breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. Fun fact, because you can have anything. You can have pancakes, eggs, sausages, um, anything. You can go in any direction. You could even get steak and eggs. It'd still be good for breakfast. So, fun fact: favorite meal of the day for Drew, breakfast. I don't know what everybody else in the crew's favorite meal is. If I had to guess, actually, that'd be too much of a guess for most of the guys. I've never seen them say like I enjoy one part meal of the day. Maybe lunch. Maybe lunch is the most neutral to go with everyone in the crew. Do I go with the non-canon exposed midriff? I don't know. I think it looks pretty badass. I may just keep that black in the middle. Or like repaint it black, because now I'd smudge a little bit of white. Or do I just commit and go with the white armor? Because he looks like he's already breaking up some of his pose there. I said sometimes it's just going back with little touches of paint, kind of to reinforce the paint, make it stick out a bit more. It happens. It happens. It happens. And I think Jared had a good idea where he's like, oh, you can read Verses of Dune, which is my favorite of all time. The first book especially, even the movies, the what's it, director's name, the one that came out in the 70s and 80s. It was a little bit weird, but then when you read the book of Dune, all, you know, like, I want to say like 1,000 pages of it, and that's just the first book. I think I read Dune cover to cover, the first book, at least 6 times. I think even more than that, to be honest. I read it so much, and I gave my copy away, and that got lost by somebody, but that's fine, because I bought another copy. Or I should say my brother gave me another copy. It is one of my favorite all-time books, and the first book. The other books, they get weird, a little bit weird, even for me. That tells you something. It tells you something when I think a book gets weird. But the message and stuff in it are just pretty spot on. Alright, I swear we're gonna move off white in not too long. We're very close to moving off white. Moving to our next colors or color, which might be the brown. I'm not sure. I'm pretty much deciding right now if I want to keep that black in the midriff, because it looks, I think it looks pretty badass, but then I would have to kind of repaint this guy's black. I mean, it's not that much of a deal to do it or not do it. I said sometimes you make a mistake, or sometimes you just have to think of something on the fly and kind of just adapt to it. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, which is why it's looking a little bit unfinished in the middle, because I'm deciding how much do I like it. How much do I like the kind of like the black showing through. I said it's not about perfect. I don't care too much about being too in canon. As long as you enjoy it, right? As long as you enjoy what you're doing. And I am 100% enjoying painting on stream, painting on VOD or YouTube, wherever you guys are seeing me. Sometimes you just don't want to paint alone. Yeah, sometimes this was also totally unplanned. Like I said, usually my painting days, not painting days, but my streaming days are Tuesday and Thursday, but stuff happens. Life tends to happen. So I decided instead to paint today. Or rather, to stream today and also to paint today. Alright, we're almost there. I just need to figure out where. Okay, so this is more of the plating, I think. Hopefully I'm not messing that up too much. You know what, screw it. I think I am going to leave that black. We'll get to that in like 2 seconds. I just got to repaint it now. Although, instead of repainting it black, I think I know what I'm going to do right now for that Under Armour. I think I'm going to hit it with some coal black. Which, thankfully, yes, I have right here. I'm going to hit it with that instead, and then probably like hit it again with a little bit of known oil in order to kind of deepen some of those colors. So now that I've decided that I'm going to give them kind of like that black Under Armour thing, I'm just going to slowly start going on some of these colors again. And hitting all these spots up. Because why not? How the camera exposes some of my sins. That's why I keep looking to my left where my second screen is, just so I can see what you guys are seeing a little bit more. Instead of a very sloppy style, especially when it comes to white. It's not very organized. And because yes, we're on a page called Unorganized Play, or we're on the channel called Unorganized Play. There's sometimes no rhyme or reason to what I do. I just decided to do. I think that's also the beauty of painting. Although there are some rules in painting. Generally, the order of how you paint certain things only because it's going to save you a little bit of time in the long run. Like painting like inward. So if I had different colors. So if I had, more like the white is layering the outside or his coat, but the inside's all like different colors. You definitely work on the inside first in order not to ruin that white. With a chance of like you missing, like you're having a missed brush stroke somewhere. Looking decent. Looking decent. Hit some of those colors up, and I think now we're gonna actually, I know I said no more white, but we're gonna actually do just a little bit more white instead of the white gray. I'm gonna introduce a little bit of regular white onto that white gray. I'm gonna start hitting some of those high areas up. Is it rock gray? You should put rock gray first. That's okay. Mistakes happen at times. You just have to be kind of move in with that. Is this thing gonna be all messed up? Let's mix it in a bit. And this is gonna be maybe like a little bit water flowing. And then kind of use it as a sort of like glaze on some of the edges. And maybe the effect won't be super prominent, or maybe on stream it's not going to seem anything crazy, but I feel it does add like a little bit of contrast to the paint. Not as in contrast paint, I just feel you can definitely tell there's a little bit of a difference. As you coat some of the areas, but you're not trying to coat the entirety of the white we just did, just the very top to add some gradation to it. I said it's there's no technical term for this, or maybe there is. I do it just because I think it looks better. Do you need to do this, or could have you done this at a different step, or could have you done a lot better? 100%. I said I'm not a pro painter. I just like to paint. So there's certain things that I do that have zero rhyme or reason, but I do them anyway because I dig it. Such is life. Get that eggshell. And yes, I get to hear the soothing sounds of the rain while also painting. Said I'm not trying to cover every area that we did. I'm just trying to hit the very tops, or at the very least like where I think the light would shine. So it's kind of like, I'm not going to say a true highlight, but a highlight nonetheless. Because you're not, I guess that's like one of the parts with white. It's not that it's hard to highlight, but in your head you think like, alright, where does the sun hit? Now, if you think of almost any other color, it's kind of like very easy to spot that. With white, not that it's not easy to spot, it's just a lot easier to, if you're not paying attention, to kind of miss where it would hit. Like I said, I'm definitely not trying to, oh man, realize I'm so out of frame. I'm not trying to get all of the white, it just looks that way. I'm kind of just going for like a fake spot highlight. I said it may not seem super noticeable, but if you see the miniature in person, it'll make more sense. This was a mix of the previous color I had, which was a white gray and then kind of like an ivory, right? An off-white mixed with a white gray. So the white gray is the base, and an ivory after. Or off-white, sorry, not an ivory. Give it like a nice little glaze, and that's more to what I like about these bottles too from AK is that there's a dropper bottle, so you can do like an even 1-to-1 mixing with some water. There we go. That's mainly to so give it like sort of this fake highlight that we're kind of effect that we're going for. So if you're if you want to think of like a highlight in most areas, I'm not going for maybe like the top third. I'm kind of giving like another reapplication of this more of a white. And like anything you painted, like you're essentially, well, the way I'm doing it is you're doing like the top third of where you think the light's gonna hit it from above. Is it gonna be perfect? No, but like I said, pretty much the whole stream, I'm not really aiming for perfection here. I'm just aiming to very paint in my style, kind of like sort of gritty. You know, they've been through it. They've been helping Jedi in their crusade or whatever they want to call it. And they have not gone really back to camp, even though they always, stormtroopers, especially clone troopers, are very meticulous with both their training and their gear. It was only once like the regular stormtroopers started taking over that some of their gear starts breaking down and stuff like that, or at the very least they don't keep it in tip-top shape during campaign. You can't always be in parade uniform. As we slowly got this. Like I said, try not to. Painting this much white would drive people bonkers. And to think that, the Imperial Army, or they're not called the Galactic Senate, or whatever the faction's called in Shatterpoint right now. And well, even in regular Star Wars, you can have stormtroopers. So they have so many clone troopers. So I got used to it. I had to come to terms that I'm gonna have to paint a lot of white. Even though I do have other characters in the box I could paint up that aren't strictly white. I figure if I already have, there's a lot of synergies. Whereas the army building is very lenient in this game, there's certainly a lot of synergies that work well with each other. Like if you play the Trade Federation, obviously all the bots and stuff work well together, so it encourages you towards that. But things like the Bounty Hunter box, where they don't have an affiliation, they have whatever affiliation you want, and it makes them extremely versatile by. And also, at least breaks up your color scheme to what you're bringing. Alright, that's pretty good. Let's try to hit up that other armor now. Here, I promise, we're moving off white. Let me stand up for a bit, because my legs are starting to, you want to stand up, move the legs a bit. I don't get all cramped up. I don't have like a lot of room to spread my legs. Alright, here we go. Now we go to I'm not going to call it the exciting part, but definitely the next part. We're going to move off white. Now we're getting a coal black, which is it looks more like a dark blue. And now we're going to coat the under armor in this. Originally, which we did paint black. Now we're going to hit it with the coal black. And this is more of a contrast of just so that black is not so plain. Like I said, it looks more like a blue, but I'm going to use it more like a highlight to give that black a little bit more, I guess something to contrast against. And this is from P3, so Privateer Press, the people who make War Machine and Slash Hordes. I actually like this color a lot, although I think GW has it billed as Incupy Black or Incupy Darkness. So like I said, I'm going to go with the exposed midriff on the front half, at least. And then all these dark parts, we're going to hit it with this Incupy Darkness, Cold Black. Not the gun, because the gun's going to be a little bit different. As we slowly make our way. Don't have to be too careful with it on the fingers just yet. Just hitting all those dark armor plates, or the bodysuit underneath. And so this is more to give like shadow and definition than anything else. Where does that arm end? just slowly giving character to the models, so it's not like anything crazy. You know, to be honest, people probably won't really spot out the differences too much, but I will. I think painting's about hiding little secrets sometimes. Like I said, we're gonna paint up that midriff. One, I just like the way it looks, to be honest. This is non-canon, so I know, don't hate. Don't hate that I go off the books. I go off the reservation a bit. Just some of my color choices. There we go. Let's get slowly but surely. Like I said, we're not only doing the front half of those 3 rows. Alright, not bad. As I said before, not a master painter, just a guy that likes painting a lot. Okay, now we come to the decision. Are we going to go crazy with some of this armor color with the Commandos? Do we want to keep them white? Although, I think we're just going to keep them white. Here's me just looking. We're going to keep them white. Maybe it'll be too much if I had too many different colors. And let's add some blue here in the visor. And the reason why I'm doing that, it's going to be evident later. It looks like they're lit. In some of these pictures, it looks like they glow. So I think we're going to go for that kind of glow effect. Alright, next. We are going to get a brown of some sort, and we're going to start coloring the ground. Maybe we do it with some of our surface primer. That wouldn't be a bad idea either, because I can't see the brown that I want to use off the bat right now. Did I put it away? Beige brown is not too bad. Yeah, maybe I'll use some primer. Some airbrush primer brown. This is German brown, German red brown. Of course, shake all your paints. Never forgets. Prefer things with little squirty bottles. Alright, got a nice little dollop of brown paint there. Now we get a messy brush, or a big brush. Do I have a big brush in here that I want to use? I want something that has an ideal, kind of like a round, almost flat topped. I mean, I just looked at it, now I want to introspectively. Let's get this one. This is like a dry brush. That's super hard. I'm gonna try this one. It's sort of like cheap discount brush. I don't even know where I got this one, but it's gonna get a little roughed up. I'll tell you that right now, because we're gonna dab it onto the base. Let's get him out of the harm's way. And yes, this is not like a very scientific thing. We're just gonna I don't want to mess up the foot too much, but that's alright if I hit it, which I just did clearly. Like I said, they're going to be kind of like dirty towards the bottom. So don't worry about making mistakes, although if that's not the effect you're going for, then yes, be extra careful. I'm not being too careful here. I just don't want it to be too dirty and just look overused. And so these guys are trudging through the mud and like fighting on a planet, so there's going to be a lot of upturned or unearthed dirt and mud that they're going through. So that's kind of the effect I'm going for. I'm going to try to get that going. guess the bonus of using a primer, or like liquid primer, I mean, it could just be easy paint, is that it's pretty watered down since it's airbrush primer. So it's flowing to where I need it to be. Very good. See, like I said, I'm gonna put it now. I'm gonna get a little messy here by putting a couple of splotches up the leg and the foot. One, to cover up any mistakes that I did or did not do, but two, because that is my intention all along. As far as having them trudge through it, especially with the Commandos, you're gonna get into a little bit more action than some of the other troops. I think that's part of it too. You kind of want like a narrative when you paint. For some miniatures, or when you're converting them, that's a whole different stream. For the people that actually convert their miniatures, I am an orc player at heart for Warhammer, so I definitely like converting a lot. But it helps a lot when you have some sort of narrative in your mind of what you're trying to convey with your miniatures. Helps you plot their scheme or how you want them to look, how you want their armor to look. In this case, like I said, I want all my clone troops kind of having that dirty, like they've been in the field too long armor, so I'm 100% fine if it doesn't look super organized. In fact, I'd prefer that, because that is the look I was going for. And yes, that was pre-plotted even before I got the miniatures, when I started putting them together. I knew that I wanted something a little bit different than what other people have. So that difference is I'm gonna paint them up as battle ready or battle hardened clone troops on a campaign, and have the Jedi or all the important people look not like more on the pristine side. They're still on that dirty planet, they just have enough time to actually relax while the clones kind of do all the dirty work. Said we know his knees in the dirt, so we're gonna give him a little dirt, especially on his shoe. We know he's been stepping on stuff, so there's no need in keeping that clean. Alright, now while that base is drying, how much time we have? Alright, we still got a little bit of time, so we can keep pushing. And yes, you can tell I'm a big Star Wars fan just because if you spot stuff in the background, all the memorabilia. Like I said, doing Star Wars probably two favorite franchises, although Star Wars more the older stuff than any of the new stuff coming out. Alright, so that's gonna be good. Let me just paint half of his thing. Next, so we do have some brown, and what I want to do I have a black here? I need something that's just straight black color. I don't see it offhand. Let's look through my wondrous amount of paints. Black gray. That might work, although I'm looking for something darker. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna have that in. The turquoise is definitely gonna help for the visor, but we can do that like near last, only because we don't need to. If something's glowing, you don't want it to get dirty and then look kind of weird. That black gray might have to do the trick, although I may use that on the gun. I'm not very organized, as you can tell. Organized chaos. I don't think. Do I have a black? Just a straight black one? Oh, got coat the arms. Got that. I do not have a straight black that I can use. I may have to settle for that black gray. Although I do have black primer. That could also kind of work. So let's try that. That's more of a straight black than the black gray. you got to work with what you have, not what you wish you had. Tip, 101 of painting. For me. I mean, yeah, I could specifically just wait and buy something. Or, ooh, wait, is this it? That's black green. No, black green's not going to do. So I'm going to try to do next. I've done this sometimes very successful, sometimes I've been trashed here doing it. Is that I'm going to try to paint up some scorch marks. And the way you do that, where's my knife? Is actually, you're asking, why do I need a knife? That's because I want to cut up a bit of this sponge here. And we're going to do a couple of things. Right? We're going to use the black to kind of put like splotches onto the armor. First, you got to make sure that you don't have too much on your I was gonna say on your brush, but I'm using a piece of sponge. And I want to damage up the armor a bit, so I'm gonna. This is kind of like chipping, because as the armor gets a little damaged. See, this is the fun part. You know how I said we're gonna paint up all this nice armor and we're gonna like essentially ruin it. This is what I was talking about. We're adding like little effects. So armor, as it kind of gets a little bit more used up, tends to chip. So I'm focusing, and I'm sure there's a more precise way of doing this. I chose violence today. So I am just going to dab it here and there. This is to give it a little bit more age, but also to, I'm unsure if that's going to come out super clear on that camera. Yeah, I just want to give it a little bit of battle damage, like I said. Don't want to make it too crazy. I put too much, so you're going to have to like brush that off a bit. And then let's start off here, because I can afford to make mistakes more towards the feet than anything else. And like I said, as they go on campaign and stuff happens to their armor, they tends to chip up and get really dirty. So that is what I'm kind of aiming for right now. That one's a big splotch. That's okay. Don't worry about it. We will handle it, because we got bigger plans. It's not just going to do this. This is like the first layer of kind of like dirtying stuff anyway. So I'm not too concerned about if things are super pristine or not. So that'll gives it a little character. Like I said, it's not anything super prominent or like super eye-catching just yet. And yes, there's still some unfinished parts of the miniature. That's fine. We can always go back. But this is more, gives it a little bit more flavor. It will add more to that second part that we're gonna do. This is just kind of like aging up the armor a bit. Like I said, they've been out in the field a bit, so they don't quite have the clearest armor right now. There's like, mud on it. There's a little wear and tear on it. They haven't had a chance to go back and clean up their armor, or get it changed or whatever, get it maintenanced. So right now we're just giving it a good couple of splotches to set it off. There we go. Alright, I totally dipped my hand in the paint. It happens. There we go. Although he looks like he really got like pushed in so much dirt on his face for that one. Next, what I want to try to do is I am going to try to do scorch marks. Now sometimes this is like a 50-50 success rate. And I realized when you have scorch marks, it's actually a mix of black and brown, which is why I'm mixing them up now. With the concentration of black being more on the blast point and the brown kind of going off of that. So let's put this like here. And you can always use that second brush in order to kind of like emphasize that a bit more. Like I said, it's not perfect. Try not to see things as like things that should be perfect, as long as they make sense to you and you're happy with your paint job. Well, relatively happy. Like I said, we live in a world. No, we live chasing that perfection, but don't worry, it doesn't need to be perfect. It can be perfectly okay. Let's chip up here. With that, let's get some brown in here, and it's not. I mean, I'm sure there's an exact science to it, but I'm not really having exact science. I want to just have fun with it. Like I said, this armor's had better days. I'm gonna dirty up this foot a bit. Definitely, let's keep this going. Alright, let's give it a little bit to this guy. Let's give it a little love. I said, people will be like, you're nuts, because people would have liked how it was before, but also, I liked the effect of a little bit of battle damage here. Where's that other sponge? So nothing ventured, nothing gained. I wholeheartedly believe in that. If you take no risks, then you don't know how far you could have gotten or not gotten. So I'll take that risk. I'll take things looking like silly or not perfect in order to see what it could have been. There's no use playing it safe. You're already committed. Said I'm going more for like where I feel damage would be and reinforcing that a bit. And it's not going to come out perfect. In fact, I may fumble a lot. I said I'm sure people will be going nuts that I tried and failed. But at the end of the day, I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to risk that it may not be perfect or come out great. Gonna go back a bit because I do want to. Those blast marks shouldn't be really transparent. They should be prominent damage to figure. Well, I guess to the soldier in question. With some of the blast marks on the outside. So use your piece of your sponge in order to scratch up or make it look a little bit more not just aptly freshly painted on. Not bad. We get a little bit more time, so I think now is the time to apply that turquoise. Actually, I lie. Now is the time to dry brush, and so you guys can see what dry brushing is about. So I'm gonna get this beige brown, boop, and show you guys what dry brushing is. Especially now that the base is starting to dry a bit, and I want to let that black settle in. But now we're gonna do a little bit more, I guess, what they consider weathering, or in my case, fake weathering. bit more, if that's okay. Said it's art. You have to be willing to take risks and make mistakes. Otherwise, what's it all for? There's nothing. I'd rather try. I'd rather try and fail than just think about the possibility of nothing happening. Wooded brush, I think it's gonna. Is this brush gonna be fine? Alright. So the art of dry brushing is, if you don't know, you get a little bit of paint onto the edge of your brush, and then you could use this spongy thing if you want, but some people use a towel paper, and you're gonna rub it ever so slightly until it looks like none of the paint is on there. Trust me, it's on there. And then usually works with like textured things that are extremely textured. And you're gonna run your brush, and the theory is that it's gonna slowly pick out some of the details. Okay, need a bit more on my brush. Oh, we could experiment on this rock a bit. Slowly details will get picked out. Hopefully that'll show up on camera more. It's not showing up super great. Maybe I need a darker brown or a lighter brown. I feel maybe that's too watery. So let's do I use Japanese brown? Or do I use silver gray? And that's too green. What did I use for my other one? Maybe silver gray. Out with you, Japanese brown. Silver green, definitely not the one. I tell you, like, my things have not been. Ooh, you know what? Rock gray. And you know what? I'm gonna make a bunch of mistakes as I just did, but should shake that up a bit more. It's been a while since I used it. Mistakes happen. Okay, maybe rock raise it. It looks like the consistency is a lot better. I said, wipe it off till you don't think you're gonna see a lot. And let's give this another go here. Oh, that one's a lot more prominent, I'll tell you that much. Slowly start picking out some of that detail there. Doesn't need to be crazy good because we're gonna cover this with grass and other stuff. Pretty much just picking out just random details. See how, like I said, I'm not really painting with this. It's more about catching random details. So if you look at the difference between, I guess you really can't tell that great. More towards, like, you can see a little bit more of the texture come out, although the light does not do the dry brushing justice. It just looks like I splotchily put on paint. And whereas that's not completely wrong, it actually looks a lot better in person. And usually people use this with a lot of miniatures. Like if a miniature has like a lot of like a fur pelt or, you know, certain clothes textures, this dry brushing technique is gonna quickly pull out a lot of those textures and detail. See, and like I said, don't judge this right away with how it looks now because there's gonna be foliage and other stuff added to the miniature. For right now, it's more about picking up the details of the stuff that might be seen. And working a little bit more on that. Oh, almost let the other cone trooper down. He's just doing a dance there. As we slowly hit our mark time. I think I'll have enough time. I have a couple of minutes left, but I definitely want to show you guys at least a little bit closer than we started. I don't know, I guess some people are going to be like, oh, you should have just left it dry brushed and just added details, but I just wanted them to look a certain way. That's my reasoning. It's pretty much the only reasoning I got right now. I want to look a separate way, or a certain way, so that's why I did them that way. I like them that way. Alright, so there's... I said it's not going to quite look like a lot right now, because this is like a multi kind of thing that you're doing, so it doesn't need to be anything crazy. What I want to do next? I want to do the visor. I think I'll do the visor now. So the visor kind of looks like it's a little bit lit up. So we're gonna do that little detail there. And maybe we'll save a little work for tomorrow, because I definitely have to stream tomorrow, but maybe I'll stream Rogue Shader, maybe I'll do some painting. Maybe I'll finish these guys off and have another project that I start on tomorrow, maybe something a little bit more exciting. I have been thinking about priming my Cyberpunk miniatures for the game. I've promised people I was going to play with them at the shop, and they've eagerly waiting for me to return back to gaming. I take like a mini break from gaming, like hardcore gaming, when my work busy season comes up, because I want to enjoy my weekends before I lose them. But now that time has come and passed, now it's time to get back. So from the pictures that I see, this kind of looks like the inside of the visor is glowing. So we simply apply a line. It's actually better if I don't 100% nail it. I kind of want to get that glowing effect. Yes, I know, the miniature looks like a complete mess. Don't worry about that. We'll get there. You just gotta believe. You gotta believe in the process. As we add more detail. In college, I had a professor for an art class. And obviously, I was like a freshman or something. And she made us paint. She told us, alright, the first, and it was a 4-hour lab or whatever. She goes, alright, the first hour we're gonna paint, we're gonna draw in charcoal this stuff on the table. So alright, we spend 1 hour, and then she goes, okay, I promise we're gonna end here. Next hour we're gonna paint another, like, I want you to spend another hour on the same thing. And people were saying like, oh, we just did everything. She's like, no, the more time you spend on it, the more time you're gonna be able to pick out details. And it's true. 4 hours later, that's the most detailed table with a fruit basket you've ever seen in your life. To my ability, it wasn't great, but everybody else said they learned from it. But the more time you put in, the more details you're gonna be able to spot, and more details you can kind of reinforce. That was the moral of that story. It almost drove me insane, because 4 hours looking at one basket of food is just too much for the mind to handle. I did appreciate it. It was a little bit much. Okay, it looks like this little thing lights up too in the back of their back, so we're gonna actually do that too. Now I'm looking at the reference picture on my desktop. So add a little turquoise there into this little, looks like a little screen on their backpack. It's gonna help break out some of that lack of color on the miniature. Lack of more than 2 colors of black. Well, I guess black, gray, and white. Some people would argue black's the absence of color. You might be right. I am but a humble, not great in art student. That should tell you how that class ended. We had a lot of talented people in my class. I was not one of the talented people. Like I said, I appreciate art and I love art, but I'm not necessarily skilled in art. Yeah, do I want to use that rock gray to paint that rock, or do I want something grayer? I actually think I want something more gray to make it look like a comical rock. I know this is here somewhere. Somewhere. I have too many paints. It may be a problem. It may be an addiction. That I really do love paints and painting. Brown. This is what I could use for my brown. I may go back and add some brown to that. Where's the gray I had? Oh, light gray. That is a little bit too light, but maybe this would be good for like the rocks that are on the base. Is there any particular gray that we want to do? I don't think so. Let's see. Let's see what this looks like. All right, yeah, that's a decent looking gray color. We have a better brush for this though. Maybe something a little bit bigger. I'm gonna use my little everything brush here. Try it off a bit. Yes, my hand's a total mess of colors now. But at least we moved off of, well, I can't say we moved off of the black and gray color palette. But at least it's not just white. So we're gonna sloppily paint on this rock he's got on his base. And I'm not being too careful because I don't mind if a little bit of the brown shows. It's gonna add a little, I don't want to use the word texture, but dimension to the rock that he has there. And yes, I gave everyone like a little bit of a tactical rock here. Now you might say, oh, it's kind of like building into the base a bit. That's fine. Like I said, now that I found my grim brown, we're gonna, like, this is not the after hour stream. It's clearly a paint pot. Get the naughty thoughts out of your mind. I'm gonna add that here because I want to add a little bit more to those blast marks that we're working on before. Because like I said, blast marks tend to be a little bit scorch marks rather, because they're shooting lasers at each other. A little bit more brown in nature than you think they are. So add that. So little details. Yeah, I'm sure like nobody's actually gonna notice these, but I'm gonna notice them. So I'm gonna put them on. More or less where I put those other random blast markers. I would say blast markers, sorry, force of habit from gaming a lot. Where I put those blasts, I'm adding a little bit of brown to that. And that is gonna sort of hopefully give the effect that it was a scorch mark from the fire that they took. Even though, you know, canning one hit and they're pretty much done. Maybe I'll add a little bit more to their feet too. I like that dark black brown that we're getting here. Alright, on top of that, what we're gonna do is, now that blue's kind of like settled down a bit, we're gonna hit it with a wash, I think of turquoise. You gotta be down here somewhere. Is this a blue? Track and Shade Night Show, yep. That's a blue. That's good. It should be a decent color to hit it with. And what we're going to do is, you know, a lot of painting also, especially when it comes to miniatures, is the illusion of getting like a certain depth of paint by creating these little, I don't want to call them like illusions per se, but getting this effect, because like I said, these aren't real. You're basing these miniatures on something that could be real or near real, but without actually, you're adding touches of realism to a fictional world of how your mind should perceive things. So I want to add a little depth to kind of the visor, and to do that I'm going to add a little blue And I'm going to focus more on the bottom half. And yes, we'll probably have to go back a bit. Because this is part shading, and yeah, like I said, it's almost imperceivable to the eye what I'm doing right now. But adding a blue ink or wash, hopefully conveying or adding, like I said, I'll try to post these on Instagram. Maybe not tonight because I don't think I'm finishing them tonight. But it's adding some sort of depth and shadow to where the blue would go on the mask. And when I do, like I follow up with the highlight, it's going to be a little bit more prominent and it's going to show a little bit better. But these are steps you do. So there's like a million imperceivable steps that a lot of painters do. And then you figure out like, oh, how did they get there? My paint's almost literally spilled all over the floor next to my feet. You figure out like, how did they get to that point? And the trick is, they do get to that point. That I had black this here this whole time. So silly. Ooh, we're almost over our time too. So 100%, we're gonna have to go back and finish this tomorrow. That's fine. I'm gonna just do like a last couple of steps as we wrap up for tonight. So I think we did pretty good progress overall tonight. We got close to where I wanted to be. Like I said, right now it still kind of looks a little bit messy, and that's fine because we're gonna kind of go over it and pick out pieces we want or blatantly ignore some others. But right now, since we have a couple of minutes, I'm gonna do what they call black ring basing, and that is that it's gonna make the miniatures a little bit look more organized on the tabletop. So notice like it's all dirty here. So this is quite literally what we do. This is exciting, right? Super exciting. And yes, you're gonna have to, because I'm super messy, I'm gonna have to go back and kind of clean up some things, but that's fine. Because once you put them on the tabletop, the miniatures are gonna stand out a lot more in like a good way. Because obviously not every place you play has the same exact terrain, so maybe they look out of place. But having a black rimmed base on your miniatures, it has something oddly satisfying about it. The most odd and satisfying way, as they say. There we go. We're gonna have to clean it up a bit later on anyway, but for right now, that is something I wanted to do. To kind of end the stream on a very gentle note. Unlike our mentor, Bob Ross, I did not end it with a picture where you're saying, oh, that all made a lot of sense. And that was such an amazing experience. In fact, I'm probably left with a lot more questions about what route I took to get here. Like I said, this was my first time really painting on stream, so I feel like you should, cut me a little bit of slack. Like I said, I did not pick the most exciting miniatures as far as miniatures that lend to a lot of colors or like things that you need to learn. I picked miniatures that I needed to get done. Or that not only that I needed to get done, that I wanted to get done. So that is, I think that's where we're going to leave it today. Said I'm going to try to paint. I may straight out do the necessity that I need to get off my challenge board. Tomorrow we'll be painting some more. I may finish these guys off in the first couple of minutes, who knows. And then I'm going to actually start queuing up some other stuff to paint so I can get a start on that. Some more exciting stuff, I promise. It will, I want to say like 90% be my cyberpunk stuff, only because it's a little bit more exciting to paint. There's a lot of skin tones, there's a lot of things that I need to work on, there's a lot of metallics and stuff. So yeah, maybe part 2. We're going to finish up these guys tomorrow, or like 99% finish them. I said right now they kind of look trashish. I promise I'm not going to touch them until tomorrow, so you can't be like, oh god, look at this, guys, we'll make part 2 video tomorrow. So then, guys, this is Drew, aka Serial Killer 195 on most social media, painting on part of Unorganized Play. Wishing you all the best. Come back, see our content. If it's not me, it'll be someone who's more skilled than me, aka Cough Cough Jared. We'll be doing a lot of different things. Like I said, we're starting moving the initiative forward for some of our channel, our group channel, with a lot of different content. Like sorcery, lorcana, some Magic the Gathering, some some C stuff, just pretty much anything we get our hands on. I even have 2 old boxes of Shadowrun, which apparently they're not completely worthless because Edge Zone came out for FASA and the cards are supposed to be backwards compatible. So I've got 2 boxes I can crack open of that, and we'll see. Like I said, if you guys have any suggestions or you guys want to see something in particular or someone in particular, let us know. Send us a message. Like I said, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you see us. Just hang out. Like I said, there's Serial Killer 195. If you want to talk to me on any social media platform or anything, that's my name on pretty much everything. So, till then, guys, hope you guys had a good time, relaxing time painting with me. I'm sure you learned nothing from me, but maybe you have something to teach me. Send the comments. Till then, guys, take it easy. Bye.